Baba.
Welcome to the Blunt Bob experience. And we have made it to part 2 of Blunt Bob's 4 weeks of horror. You got a little scared, didn't you? It's just me. All right, so got a good list this week, and we're going to get to it. I'm a big Ewan McGregor fan. Ewan, where is my Kenobi trilogy? I'm waiting. Yeah, so Dr. Sleep, sequel to The Shining, which is very interesting that they wrote the book, which is Dr. Sleep, which is a sequel to the book The Shining. Then they made a movie, Dr. Sleep, which is a sequel to the movie The Shining, even though the movie The Shining took a lot of liberties and Stephen King didn't like it, and it went in very different directions here and there, because Kubrick, he took a lot of liberties. So it's based on a book that's a sequel to a book that the movie is sequel to isn't like the book. Are you confused? Good. I wanted you to be. It was cool that they had actors playing characters. They had actors playing characters from the first movie. So a lot of the characters from the first movie were in it, pretty much all of them. And we had different actors playing them, which was cool because they did a good job. The movie wasn't what I expected it to be. It was good. I liked it. It was a good sequel. It got much more into The Shining. We got to learn a lot more about pretty much everything. Danny and the Overbrook even, and, Dick. So it was cool. And then we had new characters introduced. Ewan McGregor's perfect. The one thing I'm going to tell you that I'm going to do is that I'm going to bash your brains in. I'm going to bash them in. I was interested in seeing it. I was very interested because it's starring Keegan Allen from Pretty Little Liars. He plays, was it Ian or whatever, the boyfriend who becomes a cop. He was great on Pretty Little Liars. His character completely transformed throughout the show. And then Holland Roden, I think I said her name right, from Teen Wolf, who was literally the best part of Teen Wolf. And she's fantastic. She's beautiful and she can act. So yes, I want to see this movie. It was another movie about a social influencer, but he goes to, Russia or somewhere because he's invited by this rich guy to do this escape room. Now, it's not your regular escape room. They personalize it to everyone involved. That's the story, but it was a small chunk of the movie. But I would say that the movie itself was kind of all over the place. It didn't really center in on anything. But what I will say is that the ending of the movie saved it. I wasn't so sure about the movie, and then the ending was outstanding, and I loved it. Okay, let's talk about Fear Inc. In a lot of ways, it was the same movie as No Escape. It's about a guy who he don't get scared. Nothing scares him. And then the kid who say, "You're killing me, Smalls," he shows up and he gives him his card and says, "Hey, these people will scare you. They'll do a personalized haunted house type thing." So it's like, similar. So his friends coming from out of town and his wife, and they're like, "No, don't do that. These people are crazy. They have a reputation." He calls them anyway. It's very low budget. And you know me, I like campy, low budget with some humor. And it had that. So I like that a lot. But what I will say is that it has so many twists and turns, it kind of gets annoying. It keeps making you this and that and that. And by the time they had the final twist, it was pretty shitty. The ending was pretty shitty. And it didn't make any sense. Because it was like, it made sense that was what the last twist would be, but it was dumb. They kept trying to surprise you too much, but they just kind of got on your nerves. Would I recommend it? Yeah, I would probably recommend the movie, but not to most people though. To horror watchers who like the cheap campy stuff, yeah, like Mark Mackner, he would like this. Look at me, I'm invisible. You can't see me. I really don't want to talk about this movie. It makes me uncomfortable. Elizabeth Moss, I think, is the actor. Forgive me if I'm wrong. I should really do my research. She was someone I criticized her acting for a long time. I thought she was annoying in Get Him to the Greek. My God, did she do a good job in this? But here's the thing. I basically just watched a movie. What was it, an hour and a half, 2 hours? Of just domestic abuse. That's all it really was. Just a movie about domestic abuse with a sci-fi and horror element. It was literally, here we go. I'm going to tell you this right now. It was enough as a sci-fi horror movie. Best way to describe it. That's exactly what it was. It was the movie enough with J Lo and Billy Campbell, but they added a sci-fi horror element. Other than that, it's the same movie. Yeah, it really is. He fakes his death, obviously, becomes the Invisible Man, and starts doing stuff to make it look like she's crazy, so that she'll come back to him. I don't know. Is he really the Invisible Man if he's got a suit? Or is he just the guy in a suit? He's Iron Man, but he's invisible. You're just a guy in a suit. I stand by this 100%. It was the same movie as Enough with Jennifer Lopez. Let me know what you think. That's the thing. Comment down below. Tell me what you thought of Invisible Man, because I'm curious. I tell me if I liked it, because I don't know. So this is a film that takes place during the lockdown that we just had, the COVID lockdown. It takes place during it. So I assume it was filmed during it. So it's interesting because now are we coming into this era of cinema where we're having movies that take place during the lockdown, take place during COVID? Do we have, are we going to see much more movies where people are wearing masks? Silver Shamrock. So this movie is about a coven, I guess, or a group of friends who are doing a seance on Zoom. The whole movie is Zoom. It's I guess you would call it a shared screen. Is that what they call them? Horror films, which I'm a big fan of. I love the Unfriended movies. But it has a very different feel. Maybe because it's English, maybe because of the COVID angle. And I think it's really cool. Because I can't think of any movies right now that take place during the lockdown, that were shot during the lockdown. I wanted to see this movie captured because it is starring Brittany Curran, Curran. She was in The Magician. I appreciated this movie because it's a horror movie, but it's got like a heavy metal side to it. She's a musician who is about to make her big break, and for some reason she don't want to make a music video, but they're like, you got to make a music video or you'll never be famous. So there's a guy making a movie about the band, and he ends up, they go to her old childhood home where some trauma happened, and he goes and he makes the movie, the music video, and then they all start dying and stuff. And I think, I liked it. She had tattoos and she's walking around in a bikini the whole time. The ending was predictable, but it went further than I thought it would. And for God's sake, can we get a happy ending in a horror movie for once? And it didn't really give me much of a resolution. It had a really stupid ending. It was one of those endings, they thought they were being clever, but they weren't. We summon the darkness. Rock on. This was a cool movie. This was one of the best ones so far. It takes place in the 80s at a metal show. You know I love that. I'm wearing a Twisted Sister thing right here. It involved metal, heavy metal, and the 80s, which is perfect, and Satanism, and it was bloody and gory, and had some actors I liked in it. Johnny Knoxville plays a minister. That's pretty cool. So Alexandra Daddario, who I swear I'm very much in love with, her and a group of friends go to a metal show, and it reminded me a lot of the movie Green Room, but the narrative was switched. There's a lot of comedy behind it. I love horror comedy, and I love horror movies that take place in the 80s. I love the characters when no matter what they do, they're just getting beat up and banged up and stabbed and shot and still like holding on. And they're like, dude, I'm dying. And they still in the whole movie. Ready or Not and We Saw in the Darkness are probably my two favorite movies thus far I've watched in the past couple weeks. Johnny Knoxville. It's got Johnny Knoxville. If a movie has Johnny Knoxville, see it. Unless it's Men in Black 2. This movie had a lot of potential. I don't think it met that potential. From what the trailers were saying and what they were saying, that it was going to be very like technology based, I think, a lot involved with tech and social media. And it was a little bit, but that kind of died out pretty fast. And they definitely took a new take on the zombie film in some. My mustache is bothering me here. What's happening? It was a different type of zombie. It was a very smart zombie, a very fast zombie. Um, but in the end, it was just another zombie movie. Why would they? I don't know why everybody slurps when they eat the noodles in this movie. Every character when he eats noodles, they slurp, and I don't like that. I don't like the slurping. It reminded me of a little bit of Dawn of the Dead, the remake, the Zack Snyder remake, but the guy Andy across the street. It reminded me of him because it was just a guy alone in his apartment, losing his mind and starving. Best for last. Not the best movie, but the best movie to talk about. This was an animated horror film. Now, it's not like anime or anything. It almost had an Archer type animation. It had a cool cast. Marina Baccarin, I don't know her name. I like her. Ray Wise. I'm a huge Ray Wise fan. I got ink here. The guy is a horror legend. He is a voiceover legend. Nobody better to play the villain in an animated horror film than Ray Wise. But this movie's nuts. It's a movie, it's a cartoon, but it's got nudity and violence and blood and gore, and it's cringier being a cartoon. I can't say I've seen that many movies like this because it's like a slasher movie. It's got Saw elements, but it's animated. The story is that she survives the night. Her father tries to kill her and her siblings. She's the only survivor and she gets out. So then this game master, this higher being, says that I will restart the night, bring you back 24 hours, and you'll do it all over again. But the game master will mess with stuff and manipulate stuff to make it more entertaining. Like, the only character that looked like the actor was Ray Wise. I thought that was interesting. So maybe they wrote the part for Ray Wise, because every other character didn't look like the actor, but Ray Wise's character did. We did it! We made it through week 3. So, I must ask you this. What did we learn today? We learned that nudity is unnecessary when it's animated. I like boobies. Animated boobies. Just awkward, really. Domestic abuse is not okay, especially when you're invisible. And when you want somebody to do a personal scare to you, just don't. Never turns out the way you want it to. So until next time, next week, when we continue Blunt Bob's 4 weeks of horror. I don't know what you want from me. Go to bed.